Hey guys, so hopefully by now you have completely done your study guide on your own and you are you're watching my video just to check your answers. So let's just get started. All right, so on number 1, we want to get the x by itself. Let me get my pen working over here. So I want to undo 5 times x squared. So the opposite is dividing both sides by 5. So then I would have x squared is equal to 245 divided by 5 is, what is it? 245 divided by 5 is 49. Well, the only way to get rid of x squared is to find the square root. So the square root of 49 is both positive 7 and negative 7. So that is the answer, positive and negative 7. If you plug in positive 7, 7 squared is 49. 49 times 5 is 245. That works. If you plug in negative 7 for x, negative 7 squared is positive 49, and positive 49 times 5 is 245. So both of those answers work. Number 2, we want our x by itself, so we're going to undo plus 57, so which means we're going to subtract 57 from both sides. So we bring down square root of x is equal to 9. The opposite of finding the square root is to square a number. So we're going to square both sides. So 9 squared is 81. So x is equal to 81. And then if we're going to check our answer, plug it in for x, square root of 81 plus 57 is that 66. Square root of 81 is 9. 9 plus 57 is 66. So I know that 81 is the right answer. Number 3, I want to get rid of plus 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So that's gone. I'll bring down x cubed is equal to 27. So how do I get rid of x cubed? I find the cubed root of both sides, the cubed root. So the cubed root of 27 is 3. X equals 3. So if I plug it in, 3 cubed is 27. 27 plus 5 is 32. All right, let me clean this up a little bit. So we're on number 4 now. So if you notice, all of this is under the radical. So to get rid of that radical, that means I'm going to square this whole side. Whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I do to the other. So the square root of x plus 5 squared is x plus 5. 6 squared is 36. Now I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So 36 minus 5 is 31. X equals 31. All right, how'd you guys do? All right, moving on to number 5. It says Juan is building a table for his garage. The sides of the table are 26 and 16 inches. So if we have this rectangular table, the sides are 26 and 16. I don't know why it does that. Makes that long line. I wish it wouldn't, but it does. Try it one more time. So 26 and 16. So in order to make sure the table is rectangular, in other words, we want to make sure it has a right angle over here. So that means we're using the Pythagorean theorem with this right triangle. So we're missing the hypotenuse. So A and B are 16 and 26. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. We're checking our hypotenuse. So 16 and 26 are A and B. All right, so I'm just going to plug in that whole side in my calculator. 26 squared plus 16 squared is 932. 932 is C squared. So to find C, I find the square root of both sides. So the square root of 932 is about 30.5. 30.5 inches. All right. So number 6, find the distance between the 2 points. So I'm going to make a right triangle right here. So how tall is my triangle? Oh my goodness, that's terrible. How tall is my triangle? It's 3 units tall. It's 9 units wide. So that represents the hypotenuse of my right triangle. So I'm going to say 3 squared plus 9 squared equal to the length of the diagonal. So 3 squared is 9. Whoops. 9 squared is 81. So that would be 90 is equal to c squared. So I'm going to find the square root of both sides. The square root of 90 is about 9.5. 9.5 units. All righty. Number 7. A cake decorator rolls a piece of stiff cardboard paper to form a cone. So we got a cone. Oh, that was terrible. Anyway, it's supposed to be a cone. You guys know I can't. Anyway, all right, so the radius of our cone is 5 centimeters and the height of our cone is 16 centimeters. So we're going to find the volume. So the volume of a cone is 1/3 of pi times radius squared times height. So in my calculator, I'm going to write 1/3 times 3.14 times my radius squared, 5 squared times 16. So when I put that in my calculator, 1/3 times 3.14 times 5 squared times 16, I get about 418.7 centimeters cubed. So that's how much icing, I guess, or sprinkles. All right, anyway. So number 8, it says Eric is trying to go to Tim's house, play video games. Eric is leaving his house. He's going to walk 10 meters east and then 7 meters south to the nearest meter. How many meters would be saved if it was possible to walk to the lake? So the first thing we're going to do, so right now he walked 17 meters, right? But if you walk through the lake, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem because that is a right triangle. So we're going to do 10 squared plus 7 squared, c squared. Well, 100 plus 49 is 149. So the square root of 149 is 12.2 meters. So it says how many meters would be saved. So if we subtract 17, which is what he walked, and what it would have been if he went through the lake, the difference is 6, so it'd be 4.8 meters would have been saved, right? Does that make sense, guys? I hope it does. All righty. Number 9, a television's, oh, that should have an apostrophe. A television side is identified by its diagonal measurement of the screen. Julia's television has a 55-inch screen whose height is 27 inches. What is the length of the television? So that's true. If someone tells you, I have a 72-inch television, they don't mean it's 72 inches long. That means the diagonal across is 72 inches. So the diagonal across this one is 55. And the height is 27, and we don't know the length. So the length is going to be less than the hypotenuse, right? So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. This time 55 is our hypotenuse. So we know that C must be 55. So 27 can either be A or B. It doesn't matter. All right, so 27 squared is 729. And 55 squared is 3,025. So we're going to subtract 729 from both sides. 729 So B squared is equal to 3,025 minus 729, and we get 2,296. And then to find the square root of that number, put it in our calculator, and I get about, that should be B, I don't know why I'm writing D, but the length of our television is about 47.9 inches long. So it's shorter than the diagonal, right? Which makes sense. 47.9. All right, goodness, I make a mess on the screen, don't I? Number 10, find the missing length. All right, so if this square has a area of 64, what number times itself is 64? Well, this is 8, right? So to find this, you'd have to find the square root of this number to find the length of each side of the square, because they're giving us our area. So basically, we have a triangle with legs 8 and 15, and we want to know what the hypotenuse is. So we have 8 squared plus 15 squared is 289. That's what C squared equals. So to find the square root of 289, and we get 17. So C is 17, which is the longest side, and it should be because it's the hypotenuse. All right, number 11. A ball is in a cylinder can. The tennis ball has a radius of 4 and has a height of 11. How much wasted space is in the container? So the ball touches the sides of the canister, the top and the bottom. So that means since the ball has a radius of 4 inches, that means the canister does as well. It's 4 inches as well. So to find out how much wasted space is in the air, we're going to find the volume of the canister. We're going to find the volume of the ball, and then we're going to subtract those two numbers because that's how much air is in the container, right? So for a cylinder, we're going to do pi times radius squared times height. And then for the volume of a sphere, we do 4/3 times pi times radius cubed. Okay, so let's do our cylinder first. So we're going to use 3.14 times our radius squared times the height of the container, which is 11. So we're going to plug that right in our calculator. And I get 552.64. So the sphere is, we'll put that right in my calculator. Right, hold on, let me write it out first. 4/3 times 3.14 times our radius cubed this time. So I'm going to plug that in my calculator. 3.14 times 3, times 4/3. My goodness. I'm having trouble with my calculator this morning. Times 4 to the 3rd power. I got 267.95 approximately. 267.95. And then the last thing I'm going to do is subtract those two numbers to find out how much space is left. So 552.64 minus 267.95 is equal to 284.69 inches cubed. That's what's left over. All right. All right, number 12, here we have a silo. So a silo is a cylinder with a hemisphere on the top. It says how much grain does a silo have? The diameter is 8. If the diameter is 8, that means the radius is 4. The height of the cylinder is 35. And then we're going to add the hemisphere on top. So for our cylinder, we're going to do the area of the base, which is pi r squared, times the height. And then the volume of our cylinder would be 2/3, because it's half of a sphere, 2/3 times pi times radius cubed. So we're going to find the volume of both of these, and then we're going to add them together. So in my calculator, I'm going to plug in 3.14 times 4 squared, because the radius is 4, and the height of the cylinder is 35 feet. For the hemisphere, I'm going to plug in 2/3 times 3.14 times my radius cubed. And the last thing I'll do, like I said, add them together, 3.14 times 4 squared times 35 is 1,758.4. I'm going to add that to 2/3 times 3.14 times 4 to the third. That's about 133.10. So that would actually be about 134. 134 plus 1,758.4. I got a total of 1,892.4. I did this earlier. I'm making sure I agree with my answer. Yep, that's what I got earlier. All right. Number 13, to help support a flagpole, a 60-foot long rope is tied to the pole at a height 50 feet above the ground. So here's our pole. It's tied at 50 feet. So at 50 feet, our 60-foot long rope is tied to the ground. And the question is, how far away is it tied to the ground of where the flagpole is, basically, right? So 60, when it says use your diagram, vocabulary, and calculations to explain your answer, you must draw and label a diagram. So I would say that 60 is the hypotenuse, and 50 is one of the legs of my triangle, and I need to figure out this distance, which is another leg. Right? So I'm using the Pythagorean theorem. We're doing a lot on this test. So 50 is either A or B, it doesn't matter. But our hypotenuse must be 60. So 50 squared, well, I don't need a calculator for that, is 2,500 plus B squared equals 60 squared is 3,600. So to get B by itself, I'm going to subtract 2,500 from both sides. So B squared is equal to 3,600 minus 2,500 is 1,100. And then to find the square root of both sides. So the length is about 33.17 or 33.2 feet. There we go. All right, number 14. It says Angel is attempting to find the missing side length of a right triangle given leg A is 13. Leg A is 13 and the hypotenuse is 21. What is Angel's error? Well, Angel obviously used 21 as a leg, not the hypotenuse. So Angel's error is he put the leg in the wrong place. How should he correct it? He should correct it to put 21 as letter C. Okay. And I'm not going to put all that in words because you're listening to me. Number 15, a carpenter has boards measuring 9 and 10 feet. Is it possible to form a right angle using 3 of the boards? Well, I know that for Pythagorean theorem, I'm going to end up squaring everything, right? So let's say if we go ahead and square 6, 8, 9, and 10, can we fit those numbers together to fit into the Pythagorean theorem and let it be true? All right, so 6 squared is 36. 8 squared is 64. 9 squared is 81. And 10 squared is 100. So if I add any of these, so obviously 181, if I use either of those, are going to have to be letter C because they're the bigger numbers. So could I add 36 and 64 to get 81? No. Could I add 61 and 81 to get 100? No. Could I add 36 and 64 to get 100? I can. So yes. So if I use 6 and 8, 6 squared plus 8 squared does equal, in fact, 10 squared. So yes, those three measurements, 6, 8, and 10, could be put together to form a right triangle. And the reason why is because 36 plus 64 equals 100. I hope that makes sense. All right, number 16, it says the area of square A is 3,600. So the area is 3,600. All right, the area of C is 10,000. What is the length of the side of B? What's the length? Not the area of B, but the length. Well, A squared, I'm already given, is 3,600, right? Because that's the area. Area is already a number squared. Plus B squared, I don't know what B is. But I know that C squared, the area of C is 10,000. So I'm not squaring these numbers. They've already been squared because this is the area, right? So I want to get B squared by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3,600 from both sides. B squared is equal to, that would be 6,400. Now, if the question was, what is the area of B? This is the answer. The area of B, 6,400. However, I don't need to know the area of B. I need to know the square root. I need to know this side length. So the square root of 6,400, well, I know the square root of 64 is 8. So the square root of 6,400 must be 80. So the side length of B, the side length of B is 80 feet. That's a big, those are big squares and big triangles. Anyway, all right, let's look at, I believe this is the last one. So a spider has taken up residence in a small cardboard box, which measures 8 by 5 by 4. The spider travels from the lower right corner of the box to the upper left corner of the box. So this is a three-dimensional box here, and we're trying to find the hypotenuse, basically, of one of the right triangles. So we could do this the long way, or I believe we did one of these in class. So basically, if you have a three-dimensional, the formula is going to be a squared plus b squared plus c squared equals the diagonal of the box. So let's plug in 8 plus 5 squared plus 4 squared. And that's going to equal the diameter of the box squared. So when I plug that straight in my calculator, 8 squared plus 5 squared plus 4 squared is 105. And then finally, to get the diagonal, I find the square root of both sides. So the square root of 105 is 10.2. 10.2 whatever inches is the diagonal of the box. All right, guys, how did you do? I want to know. Send me a message. Let me know how you did. If you do well on this study guide, then you're going to do great on the test because it's very, very similar. All right, guys, let me know if I can help you in any way, and I will check in with you guys later. Have a great day.